Hello, I'm Neil Whelan, and welcome to the Wesleyan Podcast. In this episode, brought to you by Wesleyan Financial Services, Monica Pacult and Oonagh Morrison, Regional Manager for our Education segment, talk about retirement options for teachers and the plans they need to put in place so they can choose the right time to stop working and leave the classroom behind. As always, this podcast is for information only and doesn't constitute financial advice. But if you do need to talk to someone about your finances, I'll be back later to tell you how to get in touch with us. But for now, I'll hand you over to Oonagh. And first up, Monica.
Hello and welcome to the Wesleyan Financial Services podcast for teachers. Today we're joined by Regional Manager Oonagh Morrison from Wesleyan Financial Services. Hi Oonagh and welcome. It's great to have you back on the podcast. Can you please give us a recap a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, certainly. And thanks for having me back, Monica. I've been with Wesleyan now for 16 years. For 13 of that, I was advising teachers myself. And for the last 3 now, I have been managing a team across Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the northeast of England, all of whom, again, support teachers with their financial planning. So I've been here for a while.
Yes, definitely been here for a while. Well, thanks for coming back again, Oonagh. Today we're going to be talking about retirement options for teachers. Could you please give us a quick recap on what the retirement options are for teachers?
Yes, of course. With our clients, one of the most commonly asked questions is, when can I retire? But it's not as simple as it sounds. You can retire at the age that the scheme allows you to go. You can phase out towards the back end of your career by dropping your hours and then taking your pension at a later date. You can retire under what's called early retirement. So you are going when you choose to go, and that's a particular age that you might set next to an event or the end of your mortgage, anything like that. And then that's early retirement, and you effectively take your pension early. So I always used to say to my clients, you can actually retire when you can afford to. And that doesn't necessarily have to line up with your scheme or even the end of your mortgage. There's a lot more behind that decision. And that's ultimately what we do with our clients. We figure out, when can you retire under your own circumstances, not necessarily when the scheme tells you to go.
Okay, thanks, Oonagh. So it doesn't sound like it's that straightforward to really understand exactly when you'll be able to retire always. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's not linear, and it is certainly not the same from person to person. What you really need to do is understand your own finances, understand your scheme, see how the two of them link together, and then apply that to your own life and desire to continue to work in some cases. And that's where really financial reviews become very, very important. And not just 1 year before you decide to retire. As soon as possible, start to build a plan, review it, and change it as it goes, as your life changes, as your job changes. We also have to bring in lots of other things, like your partner's financial situation. Like, are you going to be the higher earner in the home in retirement? Is your partner going to be the higher earner? Do you have any children that you'll still need to have dependencies for through at any stage of your retirement? When you still have debts? There's a myriad of things that we have to consider, and they all have to lock together and play nicely together, as I used to say. And then we will decide with our clients, when can they retire. We've recently started to use a tool really diligently called a cash flow modeler. And that has been revolutionary for us to be able to demonstrate visually to a client all these things that we're considering, how they work together and how things can change.
Okay, coming back to this cash flow modeler tool, could you explain exactly what it is and how it can be used to help with retirement planning?
Yes, it's a digital tool. So we input all your financial data into this tool, and it assimilates it and puts it out visually. The track that you've got from the day that we do the model, actually until you might pass away. So it takes a long-term view visually of your financial future. It projects your income, projects your outgoings, looks at your assets. When might they run out? Will they never run out? So it really looks at where you are now and where you could be in the future. And what it allows us to do is map out possible changes in down to the very minutiae, like if inflation gets very, very high, how would it affect your income and your assets and your ability to buy a loaf of bread in the supermarket? So it allows us to model so many scenarios that could affect you. They might not, but it gives us lots of power to make decisions on what could happen, plot things out, and then it helps us understand not just when you can retire, but the sufficiency of your assets right through retirement and right up until death. So it's a brilliant tool. You know, when I started out in financial advice, it wasn't a thing. We'd never seen it before. And now that I'm watching the advisors using it, I get more and more impressed each time I see it used, and clients are loving it as well.
It certainly sounds like a very intelligent tool. Have you ever come across any teachers that may have actually been able to retire early than they thought, but had simply not had that overall understanding of what their numbers meant? Because I'm guessing it can sometimes be challenging to understand the teacher's pension scheme and gain a good overall understanding of what that and any other income streams could mean to your future. So I'm guessing this tool could be very useful here.
Yeah, what cash flow has been brilliant for is literally putting it down in hard data in a lovely, colorful diagram where it's very easy to see. There's the point at which I can drop my income down to my expenditure level. That's the age at which I can go. We've always been able to do that, but it hasn't been obviously in this visual form until we started to use cash flow modeling. Prior to that, it was using a budget planner, having a good structured conversation with the client and using the maths to figure it out. But there's just something about the cash flow modeler. It fine tunes in a visual way and it makes it very, very clear to people. But yes, in general terms, one of the nicest parts of my job as an advisor, and again, watching the advisors now, is have them tell someone you could have retired a year ago, or you absolutely can retire at the age that you've chosen, and here's why. What I found when I was advising is a lot of people believed that they needed more than they actually did. So without the financial planning aspect and people making assessments on what their friend did or what their husband did, and without knowing exactly what gets under the skin of what you can do and what you can't do, then decisions are made to work on when possibly you don't need to. So that again it's the benefit of prior planning, using these new fancy tools that we've got like cash flow and just understanding everything, locking it all together and deciding then with advice, when can you go, when's the right time. And as I say, it's not unusual to say to someone, last year was the year, 2 years ago was the year. Now on the flip side of that, there's a consequence of not planning well enough, and potentially we can say to someone, you might need 1 more year or 2 more years in the kit bag, but then at least we'll know.
Thank you, Una. That's great. Is there anything else you think teachers should bear in mind when thinking about retirement?
If I look back on meetings that I watch now with my advisors, meetings that I've done myself, the thing that I think is flawed sometimes is just doing what someone else has already done that you've watched. Their finances and your finances are not necessarily going to be the same. So decisions that they have made could be detrimental to your choices that you're about to make, or better. But always personalize the situation, personalize the pension that you've got for your financial circumstances, and look wider and with an open mind. Don't tie yourself to the age of the scheme. Don't tie yourself to decisions that other people have made, and make sure that you, your family, and your kids are going to be okay in your retirement.
And that's our show for this week. Thank you to Monica and Oonagh. If you are looking for expert financial advice, go to wesleyan.co.uk, where you can book an appointment with one of our specialist financial advisors. Charges may apply, but we won't charge you until you've agreed the services you require and the associated costs. Find out more at wesleyan.co.uk/charges. To learn about Wesleyan more generally, you can find us on the website formerly known as Twitter, as well as over on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you found this podcast useful, you can like and subscribe to us on all the usual platforms, as well as on YouTube, where there's a whole library of videos covering a wide range of financial planning topics. But that's it for now. So until next time, thanks for listening.